Hi, good evening. Hello, Australia. I know it's evening your time. It's morning my time. I'm coming to you live, if a little bit tired and bleary-eyed, from the UK. Hello, Mary. Hi, nice to see you there. And Anne Lee. I haven't done this format before, so bear with me. I know that people are popping up and joining in the feed. So just to say hello, do please make sure you keep questions coming. And Jackie is in. Hi, Jackie. And Mary says she's brought my book to read, which is very kind. And those are the words of joy to an author's ears. Thank you so much. Hello, Melissa. Hi, it's so nice. I have to say, the first thing I did when I was booked to do this was spend several hours worrying about making sure I got the time difference right and whether or not I was going to actually make it here in time at all. Hello, Karen. Nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Carol and Jenny, I can see you've just popped on as well. Hello. Now you can see behind me that there are some books stacked up because I've just come back from America. I'm in rented accommodation, so I don't have my normal bookshelves or my library or anything else. And so you can see the Shadow, oh, I'm pointing the wrong side. Shadow Man this side, and the Perfect series of books this side. Hello from Anne and Davy, I think. Hello from sunny if cold Wales in the UK. Hello, someone in the UK. That's very nice. Also managed to get the right time of day as well. That's very impressive. So yes, so I'm going to be talking to you a bit today about The Shadow Man. There you are. It's on your screen 3 times now. You can't miss it. Tracy's from Melbourne. Christine, hi. And just telling you a little bit about what that has been like writing The Shadow Man. I'll get started. I will try and see everyone as I go in. Hi, Gemma. Please feel free. Any questions as I go, I can stop what I'm doing. So just throw the questions onto the comments page and ask me anything you like, whether it's a question about writing or your journey in writing or anything I do, it's completely fine. Anne said, brilliant read. Thank you very much, Anne Jones. That's really kind. Do you know what? It's a really nerve-wracking time when you bring a new book out, and it doesn't matter if it's your first book or if you've written a dozen, and I know plenty of authors who've got 20 books out there. It's still scary. And the truth is, until readers are actually coming back with feedback and reviewing and saying, you know what, we loved it, it's scary every day until then. And even then, it still takes a little while for you to really believe that what you've done is anything valid. We've got Sabrina. Where can I buy one of your books? Sabrina, they are available in bookshops in Australia, but also obviously Amazon and the normal, quite a lot of online retailers as well. Mary and Yvonne from Northern Rivers area of Australia, where I was planning a trip there this summer. I don't know if I'm going to be able to come yet, which is a bit upsetting, but I would very much like to be able to be in Australia this year. My husband is a huge fan. He's spent a long time in Australia and absolutely loves it. If we could just kind of come and live your end of the world, my husband would be there in a shot. Jenny said, I love your books. Looking forward to reading the new book. Well, thank you very much, Jenny. So let me tell you a bit about The Shadow Man. So this is a standalone. So what I've been writing till then, if I move out the way, the right direction, no, this way. I'm doing everything in reverse and my brain is quite stupid. These are the Perfect series of books. That's what I normally write. That's a detective series set in Edinburgh about a half French, half Scottish detective. And they are police procedurals. But I do have a lot of emphasis on writing from the perspective of serial killers and, criminals. Oh, hello, Melinda as well, who's just joined us. I decided it was time to write a freestanding novel, a standalone. That's how I ended up writing The Shadow Man. And The Shadow Man is about a man who is suffering from Cotard syndrome, which is something I actually found when I was researching for a different book. So Cotard syndrome is also called walking corpse syndrome. It's very interesting, and it is about people who genuinely, it's very real, it's very scary, genuinely believe that they are either already dead or that they are in the process of dying, that their organs are rotting inside them. It's a horrible thing. I'm just going to say a quick hello to Meredith from Melbourne. So this man believes that he is dying and then dead. So the question that occurred to me when I was doing my research and trying to find new interesting things to write about was, what might be the implications if somebody believes they're dead? What rules apply to them? There are no consequences. They obviously can't believe that anything can happen to them that's worse than has already happened. And in real life, what actually happens with these people is quite often they stop eating, they stop drinking, they don't believe they need food or water, they don't believe they need oxygen. And the absolute tragedy of it is that quite often these people end up starving to death because the obsession is so genuine and so overwhelming that they don't think they're operating within the rules of normal society. Jackie, thank you. Fascinating topic, she said. Amanda Campbell said, can you read us a section, please? Amanda, thank you. I am going to do this. Can I have 2 minutes of your time? Is everyone okay with that? Tell me if you're not. I'm just going to read you the prologue. Is that okay? And it won't take very long. It's a minute and a half. This is where we first meet the Shadow Man, okay? From a distance, the grave appeared freshly dug and empty. To the birds overhead, though, vision sharp enough to spot the briefest wiggle of worm or skitter of insect, an older coffin was visible in the depths of the hole. Time had rotted the wooden lid. Time and the pressure of another coffin stacked on top of it. A family grave stores both more memories and more bodies than a single resting place. This hole in the ground, if earth could tell tales, would be fit to burst with stories of bodies come and gone, of hope and disappointment, of dirt disturbed more often than any resting place should ever have to bear. Few visitors attended that somber space, and those who did had not ventured to the far edge for many years. The cemetery was ancient and unused to new requests for burials. It stood beyond the outer limits of the city in a circle of trees that kept prying eyes out and the spirits of the dead in. One man came and went as needed. He visited a grave there and sometimes brought others with him. He would sit in the grass and talk to a gravestone, listening intently, as if waiting for a response. Sometimes he would dig a coffin up, and sometimes he would bury it, always the same one. Half the time there was a soul to inter, sometimes more than one. Months later he would reappear, then he would clear out the coffin, place new flowers at the gravestone, put away the remains in the boot of his car after careful stripping and cleaning, drag the coffin into the bushes and fill the hole in the earth. The birds did not sing on days he appeared there. No rodents ran through the grounds or hopped from tree branch to tree branch. The sun hid behind clouds. The world seemed to know more tears were to be shed. Now the utmost section of the family grave stood empty again, merely a matter of waiting for the space to be occupied. Time stood still here, the same ritual repeated until the grave was little more than a revolving door between this world and the next. So there you go. There's the prologue. Jane just said he's the most horrifying character I've ever read. Thank you very much. I'm going to take that one as a compliment. Lisa's off to find it, so thank you very much. Amanda said, well, I can't wait to read this, which is really very cool. It's an amazing thing. And can I just say, while I'm on the line with you, what I think readers think is that we're somehow removed from the feedback we get from you, and we're really not. It keeps us going. It makes us want to write the next book. It's absolutely invaluable, not just for spreading the word, which it does, but also for giving some affirmation to writers that it's a job that's really, really worth doing. So please do keep being involved in events like these, and please do keep giving feedback. And Christine said, you have me at Prologue, which is brilliant. Thank you very much, Christine. That's very sweet of you. So yes, anyway, The Shadow Man, and Zoe said, I know what my next read is. Thank you. That's so kind. The protagonist in this is somebody called Dr. Connie Woolwine. So I've written this from the perspective in part of a psychological profiler. She's quite interesting. She's got her own backstory that's going on. She's somebody who, following an accident when she was 18, a neurological accident, can only see in black and white. So she physically, everything is shades of grey. So she was quite interesting. She's American. She's very blunt. She absolutely tells it like it is. There's no messing around with Connie Woolwine, so, which made her a really fun character to write. Christy, thank you. So just started, so excited to finish. Please do. I'm on other social media. Let me know when you have finished it. People who started it are going to buy it. Let me know what you think. Find me. You can find me almost anywhere. I spend way too much time on social media. So yes, she is a psychological profiler. And what was really fantastic about this, because I've been living in California for about 3 years, I'm back in the UK now, is that a friend of a friend, and it was all very convoluted, but managed to put me in touch with an actual psychological profiler, a very senior profiler from the FBI. And I had the real privilege and pleasure of being able to send all my book notes before I'd written it, but all the notes about Cotard syndrome and my antagonist and how this was work, and sending them to an active profiler within the FBI who went away, did all the research. And I'm going to answer the question. Anne's asked a question about how much time I spent researching. And the FBI profiler worked the whole case from scratch, as if she was doing it herself, and as if, right, now I've got these clues, now I'm moving on to here. This is what I've done. So when you read the book, you can be reassured that every single step, all the language I've used, and they call things frantic information grabs, when they just fill a whole room with every photo, every map, every picture, every statement, things like this. This has all come from the FBI, none of that's made up. And we talked through how it would be difficult for her to profile this guy, because he's taking different type of victims to kidnap them. He is changing his MO every time, because he is spiraling downwards into the depths of this psychological illness. So I suppose I spent about 6 months just researching and putting my notes together, and kind of, reading real cases of Cotard syndrome and reading the notes from there and looking at how that would manifest itself and that sort of thing. Jackie, yes, you can get this on iBooks. So it was quite a long process for me. So what I do is I will be researching one book at the same time that I'm writing something else. And quite often at the same time, I'm finishing my final edits on a third book. Anne said, thought they'd both make a great continuing series, definitely wanted more of them. That's very kind. And I wrote it as a standalone. What's quite interesting about this is I was having a break from the Kalanack series. And it was a complete standalone. And I think about 95% of the reviews I've had back, very, very kindly, have said we would really like to see a bit more Connie Woolwine, who works with another detective called Brodie Barder, who's this terribly English, refined character, but actually very warm and very loving. And he's the perfect foil to Connie Woolwine. So lots and lots of people have said, will there be another one in that series? Can we hear a bit more from Connie? And actually, I'd love to write another Connie book. It's a funny thing when you start writing, is that you don't know how you're going to react to your characters as a writer. So I had this idea for them, and before you finish the book, you really don't understand if you're going to, you can get bored of characters, you can find there's nowhere left to go with the character, and sometimes the character just doesn't work out in the context of the story. By the time I'd finished writing this story with Connie, I was in a place where I was realizing that she had somewhere left to go. So it might be the case that whilst the Shadow Man will not be making a reappearance anytime soon, Connie Woolwine and Barder may very well be back. And for those of us who just joined us, just coming in, I'm Helen Fields. I'm a crime writer, living currently in England, but I have a tendency to travel around a lot. My husband has extremely itchy feet, so we end up all over the world. So yes, so The Shadow Man is the one that came out a week and a half ago now. So we're still very much in the stage where it's all very exciting, and we're waiting for feedback and getting reviews in and finding out what people think of those characters. So my writing process, let me talk to you a little bit about that. My background was as a criminal and family law barrister, and I did that for about 13 years. So I have a reasonably good knowledge of criminal law and of policing, but also of expert witnesses. And because as a barrister in England, and the Australian system is very similar, I both prosecuted and I defended, and I did a lot of work with mentally ill offenders, and I also did interesting things like I did courts martials with the Army and the Air Force and things like that. So I've got quite a diverse background. So that enabled me to move into crime writing. I've always liked creative writing. Jackie said, please come down under and visit us of your work. Thank you. Absolutely. I am going to say HarperCollins Australia, send me an invitation. I so want to come and do a book tour down there. I would be with you in a heartbeat, I promise. I will get on the plane the second I'm allowed to get on a plane, and I will come and visit Australia. I can't think of anything better. Yes, so I was a criminal barrister, so I had lots of ideas. And whilst you can't base a book on a case, what I did was I took with me a lot of the people that I'd met over the years, a lot of the people I defended and their characteristics, and some police officers, some I adored, some I fell out with, and that sort of thing. And I took all those experiences and wrote them into a book. And what I quite often do, and what I find, thank you, Angelica, who said, love the prologue, thank you very much, is that I find the best way to start is to find characters and make sure that I'm dropping them into a situation where they're not entirely comfortable. This is exactly what I did with Connie Woolwine in this book. So she's an American, she's from Massachusetts, and we dropped her into Scotland. And in fact, my regular character, D.I. Kalanach, is a very, very good-looking Frenchman, a former model, who has hit a difficult time in his life. He'd been working for Interpol, and a colleague within Interpol makes what turns out to be a false rape accusation against him, and he has to he just loses his social circle, and he loses faith at work, and he relocates because his father was Scottish, and he goes back to Scotland to become a police officer there. So he takes with him this feeling of being an outsider and a foreigner. And he doesn't fit in because he's almost too good looking, and he's got that French accent, and it's all a bit weird. So we drop him into the middle of Edinburgh where no one wants to take him seriously. But he's got this very difficult backstory of being falsely accused of this assault, which has given him PTSD. So that's the Kalanach series. And I love that, this idea of putting people somewhere where they're not naturally there. Jane asked what my writing workday looks like and where do I write. I've moved around a lot in the last 3 years. I used to have a really, really good system in one place where I worked, and it was all, I'd gone through that whole writer thing where it was all perfect, and I had my I had my writing mug, and I had my special chair, and that's all rubbish. And I've moved around the world so much for 3 years that I've come to realize that I need my laptop and coffee. And that's about all I need. So I can write at a cafe, I can write in the car. I've got 3 children and a very busy husband. So I'm just permanently, before lockdown at least, driving around, dropping someone here, dropping someone there, picking someone up. So what I try and do Monday to Friday is I try and work and write solidly for the 6 hours that the children are at school. So I have that time, I have those hours, and I really force myself to be seriously disciplined. So that is about, within that 6 hours a day, having to produce a good 2,000 words. When I do that, I get 10,000 words done a week. I can take weekends off to give my time to the children properly, and to just take a break from it all. So that tends to be what my day looks like. I drink way too much tea and coffee. I eat too many biscuits, and I try and make myself go for a walk each day, just because writing is a fairly unhealthy lifestyle otherwise. Christine Wilson said, your experience and background shows in the depth of your books. Would you like to try some new experience or skill to include in your books? Yes, I absolutely would. My forensics, I dealt with a lot of forensics as a lawyer, but not from the inside. I would love to and please take this in the manner of which educationally it's intended, not in a gratuitous or gory way. Having some tea. I spoke too long. I would love to understand the post-mortem system better and really understand forensics and really understand CSI. It's very difficult to get anyone to let you into that these days. If I could do a course now, I would go and do a course in the kind of, the detail of the pathology. But I would very much like to have better knowledge, much more detailed insider knowledge on those things. And there are lots of things I would like to do, but I just don't have time at the moment. It's horrible. Lisa said, who do you develop first, the investigator or the criminals? Which is a really good question, because the answer is that's different probably in every book. It became really easy, of course, when I was writing the series. There are 6 books in that now, and there'll be another one. That was easy because once you've read the first one, you've kind of got your investigative team, which makes it quick and easy, because then you're just finding a new bad guy each time. And, you're going to kill off a character, you're going to introduce a new character, but basically you've got this community and all their voices are really familiar inside your head. In the Kalanick series, there's a great character called Superintendent Overbeck, and she is the most horrible human being. She's kind of, I think she's my inner me. It's terrible. She says the most awful things to people. Those things that every now and again you get really enraged and you really want to say something really awful, but luckily our humanity and our decency stops us. Most of the time it stops us. And Overbeck is the part of me that doesn't ever stop. She just says those really awful things to people. So I have these characters that I can come back to, and I know that they're going to give either more drama or more levity and that sort of thing. Writing a standalone, and actually I've just finished writing the standalone that will come after The Shadow Man, which is set on the Isle of Mull in Scotland. And I think with that, when I'm writing a standalone, the investigator comes first, just because that's the voice I have in my head more often. And I can hear and see and feel the emotions of my antagonists. But in terms of being able to work through the story and get right from the start to the end, it is the investigator whose voice is in my head. But it's very important, of course, with these people to spend enough time with them that you realize that no one's all bad or all good. No one's completely intact. Every adult is broken in some way. And I think what's really interesting when I'm dealing with the antagonists, the bad guys, is for us to all understand, as we do, that these people aren't in a bubble. They don't just only live and kill people. They also have to go to the dentist sometimes, or they have to buy milk from the supermarket, or they get a phone call from their mother, and things like this. And what's really interesting is understanding the difference between how they interact with the normal world and how they're able to hide and camouflage themselves, and then the change in them during the times when they do these terrible, dark things. And actually, it's the conflict within them about interacting in a normal world and then going into their own little world that is the really fascinating thing about them. So I think very hard about that. I don't just see serial killers as coming into the book to kill. They also have to, they also have to pay their electricity bill. We never think about serial killers in the context of normal lives, but that is sometimes when they're at their most vulnerable, and when it's easier to see the damage to them in a clearer way. So that's how I think about characters. We've only got 6 minutes left. Any more questions? Please throw them at me now. Do I have a favorite crime author? Is a great one. Now I do. I don't know, Jackie, whether or not you read a lot of Christopher Brookmyre out there. I don't know if you've got much Chris Brookmyre. He is a Scottish writer, actually, who I was reading his books long before I started writing. He's amazing. And but he writes dark comedy crime. His early books, which is things like Not the End of the World and All Fun and Games Until Somebody Loses an Eye, and Boiling Frog, and The Sacred Art of Stealing. They are funny, funny books, but they are the darkest, funniest books. Terrifying, with great characters, but he really gets into that nitty-gritty of what human interaction and humour can be like. So he's one of my all-time favourite crime writers. Susan asked, is the setting in your stories important? Could be set anywhere? I started writing books in Scotland because it's a place I adore, but not a place I lived, which meant it still had that mysticism and that escapism for me and that excitement. If you've been to Edinburgh, anywhere in Scotland actually, but particularly Edinburgh, you'll know that it still has that sense of kind of that Gothic mystery to it. They've been very careful about not developing the city centre in a terribly modern way. So you go around any corner and there's a little alleyway, or there's a little, place, but you could have walked back 300 years at any moment in time. So it lends itself to this crime. Actually, I should say on behalf of Edinburgh, it's a very safe city. People don't get murdered there all the time. So setting is important, but it's got to be somewhere that sets me on fire. If I'm not excited about it, then that won't come through in the work. I've been reading your crime books. This is Yvonne Luckhurst. For many years, thank you for introducing a whole range of characters and getting me to read. Thank you, Yvonne. I'm delighted when people say that, they enjoy the characters and feel like they've interacted on some level. That's the best I can achieve when I write. Lydia said, enjoying your perspective, how you develop characters, their flaws, how they're ordinary and camouflaged. Yes, and that's it. That's really it for me. Everyone is camouflaged in some way. We all put on a face, whether it's at work, whether it's to our husband or wife, whether it's, walking down the street. We put on a camouflage. You don't have to be a serial killer to do it. What's really interesting is what happens when that breaks. Jackie, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Ilona, looking forward to reading The Shadow Man. I hope you do. Please, get in touch with me and let me know what you think. What's one piece of advice you give to an aspiring writer? It's this. It's really, really important. You do not have to write what you know. That's rubbish. When you hear that advice, it's rubbish. You do have to write what sets you on fire. You have to write what you love and what you're passionate about. When you do that, it will come through in the pages. When you do that, you'll write the type of book you want to read. If you write a book that you want to read, then other people will want to read it too. So write what you are passionate about. You can use Google Maps. You can look things up. You can research. You don't have to know all about it, but you do have to feel completely captivated by it, because that is how you write a good book. Genres do I like to read? I love reading historical fiction. I absolutely love it. It gives me an amazing break from crime. Lisa, thank you for your time tonight, and thank you as well. Suzanne said Luke & Co would make a great TV adaptation. Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? I think they would. I hope the characters have a lot of depth, and certainly I want to be there and do all the casting, because I feel so strongly. I have such a personal interaction with those characters. Christine said, thank you so much. And to Jane as well, thank you for a wonderful session tonight. I have loved it. Please invite me back when I've got my next book out, because this has been amazing. And Christine said, great advice. Thank you. My door is always open for the aspiring writers out there to find me on Twitter or message me on Facebook, and just or Instagram, and ask me questions. If you're writing a book, if you're struggling, if you need to know how to do something, or if you just need me to tell you, you can do it. Because if I can do it, anyone can do it. All right. So please feel free to contact me to ask me any more questions after this, and I will be delighted to answer you. And Davi, thank you so much for talking. It's been interesting for me. Thank you very much as well. It's been great. So please keep reading, whether it's my books or anybody else's. Please keep leaving reviews for any author you can find. We appreciate every single one of them. And please understand that we do see them, and we do see you as readers. So keep being involved. Meredith said, thank you. Can't wait to purchase this book. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Delena, thank you. So thank you to everybody. I've had a really nice time. I can't believe Belinda said a new fan here. Well, you've got a new fan of Better Read in Australia. I've had a really nice time. Half an hour went in the blink of an eye. Thank you so much, everyone. You've been very kind and welcoming, and they were amazing questions too. So I really appreciate that. And I'm very much hoping that I'm going to get to Australia. I hope that when I come down there that I can do some book events, and that maybe I'll just get to meet a few of you in person and to say hello and to say thank you for your support. I know I'm a long way away, but I really appreciate you reading the book and being part of, you know, the whole journey of writing and creating new characters with you. So thank you. It's been great. Cynthia, thank you very much. Belinda, so thank you, all of you. It's been an absolutely lovely time. And yes, there will be another standalone out next year. I'm not even allowed to tell you what the title of that is yet, because if I tell you, my publishers will change it, and that will be just awful. So there is more to come. There's more to come from Luke. Mary said, I hope short reviews are valued too. They are. You know what? A few words to let us know that you liked it and that we're doing something that has some value to you, and that we're just adding, you know, 4 hours of reading time, or however long you take for a book in your life, that just kind of gives you a tiny moment of pleasure. So all you have to do is go online and say, loved it, or great book, or, you know, thanks, or whatever. And that does as much good. So yes, short reviews are very much valued. So there we go. Thank you. I know it's 9:30. I know that the lovely Jasmine behind the scenes will be thinking about wrapping me up with you. So thank you all very, very much. Deborah, thank you for your kind words there as well. Yeah, please keep reading, please keep enjoying, please keep in touch. And I am sure that I will be back again to speak to you sometime in the future.